The smoke was thick, the heat unbearable. People screamed from behind the yellow safety tape, their phones trembling in their hands as they recorded the chaos. Flames licked the sky like fiery serpents, rising from the crumbling remains of a small home on the edge of town. The fire had started just minutes ago, but already it had swallowed half the house. And then, through the panicked cries and roaring blaze, a sound pierced the air, high-pitched, desperate, heart-wrenching. A puppy's cry. Somewhere inside that inferno, a tiny life was begging to be saved. Most people froze. Firefighters shouted, trying to hold the perimeter, but there was no way inside, not yet. It was too unstable. No one was allowed in. But one man didn't wait. Tyler, a 29-year-old mechanic with grease still smudged on his hands, tossed his jacket aside and sprinted forward. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" a firefighter yelled, reaching for him. But Tyler had already broken past the barrier. His boots pounded the pavement as the temperature surged. Smoke clawed at his eyes, but he didn't stop. He had heard that cry, and he couldn't forget the look in the puppy's eyes just minutes ago when he'd walked past the house. The little thing had been peeking through a broken fence, tail wagging at strangers. And now that same puppy was inside trapped. Neighbors gasped. A woman clutched her chest, shouting his name. Someone started praying. No one believed he would make it out. Inside, Tyler dropped low to the ground, trying to stay under the choking smoke. He couldn't see much. The fire was eating everything. The wallpaper curled, the wooden beams cracked and spat embers like angry ghosts. But then another whimper. Closer this time. He called out, hoarse from the smoke. "Hey, buddy, where are you? Come on." A tiny yelp answered him. He crawled forward, coughing, his eyes stinging. His hands scraped along the scorched floor until he felt soft fur. He looked down. There, half buried under a fallen beam, a trembling golden-brown puppy stared up at him, eyes wide with terror. "I got you," Tyler whispered. With one arm, he lifted the beam just enough, and with the other, he gently pulled the pup free. It was whimpering, coughing, its small body hot from the flames. Tyler wrapped it in his shirt and held it tight to his chest. But getting out wasn't going to be as easy. The hallway he'd come through was now completely engulfed. The ceiling groaned, wood cracking under pressure, and he knew he had seconds. "Think," he muttered, scanning for another way. Then he spotted it. A window half open to his left. He dashed for it, shielding the puppy with his body. Smoke curled around him, and as he reached the window, the ceiling behind him gave a sudden snap and collapsed. The crowd outside screamed. Tyler hurled his elbow into the glass. It shattered. He shoved the puppy out into the hands of a firefighter reaching up. The next second, he climbed through, collapsing onto the grass as sirens blared and someone sprayed water over the frame. People rushed in. Tyler gasped, coughing hard, his shirt singed, hands red with heat. But he was alive. And so was the puppy. Wrapped in a firefighter's coat, the little dog licked his face. And Tyler? He just laughed through tears. "You're safe now, little guy." But what happened next was something no one expected. The crowd had gone silent, and a voice rose from the back, trembling. "That dog, he belongs to my son. He died in this fire last year. We buried him with that puppy's twin." Tyler turned, stunned. Standing there was an old man, tears falling freely, holding a charred photo frame in his hands. The air grew still. The rescue had become something more, a miracle. A second chance. A soul saved, perhaps for more than one reason. And Tyler's life, from that moment, would never be the same. To be continued in part 2. Tyler sat in the back of the ambulance, oxygen mask pressed against his face, but his eyes weren't on the paramedics. They were locked on the tiny ball of fur wrapped in a gray blanket beside him. The puppy was alive, frightened, scorched, but alive. And yet Tyler couldn't shake the old man's voice from his head. "That dog, he belongs to my son. He died in this fire last year." It didn't make sense. The fire had just started. But as the man came closer, holding the burned photo frame, the pieces began falling into place. Inside the frame was a photograph, faded but clear. A young boy, no more than 9, grinned wide for the camera. In his arms were 2 identical golden-brown puppies. One wore a green ribbon. The other wore a red one. Tyler looked down at the puppy he had just saved. Its collar was melted in parts, but the faint trace of red could still be seen. The man knelt beside him. His name was Jamie. We adopted both dogs on his birthday. But when the fire happened last year, he swallowed hard. We never found the second one. We thought she'd run off and died somewhere. Tyler took off the mask slowly. His voice was hoarse but steady. She didn't die. She waited. The man, Mr. Langston, he would later learn, nodded, his hands shaking. Maybe she was waiting for him to come home. The moment hung in the air, heavy and sacred. Tyler reached out and gently passed the puppy into the man's arms. The dog sniffed his chest, whimpered, and then let out a soft cry, like recognition. Everyone nearby could feel it. This was no ordinary rescue. This was something deeper. Something that made strangers cry and hardened firefighters go silent. But the story wasn't over. 2 days later, Tyler returned to the scene of the fire. He couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way the puppy had looked at him. Maybe it was the old man's words. He found the lot fenced off, the house completely destroyed. But among the debris, he saw something glinting. Curious, he stepped over a barrier and picked it up. It was a small metal tag, burned at the edges but readable. It read, Rosie. If found, bring me home. The address matched Mr. Langston's. Rosie. That was her name. Tyler smiled softly, brushing off the ash. He felt pulled, drawn to her story. That evening, he knocked on Mr. Langston's door. The man opened it slowly, surprised. Tyler. He held up the tag. I think this belongs to someone. Mr. Langston's eyes watered as he accepted the scorched tag. You're welcome to come in. Inside, Rosie wagged her tail, her burned patches healing under the care of vets and the soft touch of someone who knew how to love broken things. She bounded toward Tyler the moment she saw him, licking his hands, whining with joy. She's been like that since you left, Mr. Langston said with a chuckle. Follows your scent everywhere. Tyler knelt beside her. Hey there, girl. Missed me? She barked once, tail sweeping the floor. Mr. Langston sat in his recliner, eyes misty. Jamie would have loved to meet you. He always believed in happy endings. Even when he was sick. Tyler looked up. Sick? The old man nodded slowly. Cancer. He fought like hell. Lost his hair, lost his strength, but never lost his heart. Said if anything ever happened to him, Rosie would carry on the love. A lump formed in Tyler's throat. And now, she found someone new to carry it to. Silence fell between them. A quiet peace. An understanding. As the weeks passed, Tyler became a regular visitor. Rosie wouldn't sleep unless he came by. And slowly, something began to heal in all of them. But just as life started returning to normal, something unexpected happened. One rainy night, as Tyler drove home from Mr. Langston's, headlights blinded him at an intersection. A truck blew past a red light, smashed into Tyler's car, sending it spinning off the road. The world went black. When Tyler woke up, everything was pain. The beeping of machines. The sterile scent of antiseptic. A doctor's voice explaining he had broken 3 ribs, bruised a lung, and would need to stay in the hospital for weeks. But worse than the pain was the absence. Where was Rosie? To be continued in part 3. Rain tapped gently against the hospital window as Tyler stirred, wincing from the soreness in his ribs. Every breath was a reminder of the accident. Every flicker of light across the ceiling a question unanswered. Where was Rosie? The nurses didn't know. No one had seen her. And Tyler hadn't exactly been carrying her when the crash happened. A week passed. Then 2. Tyler's recovery was slow, but steady. Still, a weight pressed against his chest heavier than any broken bone. He missed her. The way she wagged her tail when he walked into the room. The soft whine she made when he talked to her. The comfort she brought without saying a word. Then, on a Thursday morning, just as a nurse was changing his 4, there was a commotion outside his room. Sir, you can't. A bark. Followed by a second. Then the door burst open, and Rosie launched herself onto Tyler's bed. Despite the pain, he laughed, arms outstretched. Hey, there you are. Rosie licked his face furiously, her tail wagging like a metronome on overdrive. Behind her stood Mr. Langston, a knowing smile on his face. She's been tracking your scent ever since the accident. Took her days to find the right hospital. Tyler swallowed hard, emotions rushing to the surface. How'd she even get in? Walked straight through the lobby, the nurse said, half laughing, half exasperated. We couldn't stop her. Rosie curled up beside him, head resting on his chest as if it were the only place she ever wanted to be. From that moment, Tyler's recovery sped up. Doctors called it remarkable. He called it Rosie. When he was finally discharged, there was no question about where Rosie would go. Mr. Langston handed Tyler a leash, but his eyes were shining. She's yours now. Jamie would have wanted it that way. Tyler tried to object, but the old man held up a hand. I've had a good life. Rosie needs a future. And you need her more than I do. The goodbye was quiet. No ceremony. Just a final nod between two men who had lost and found something worth holding on to. Months later, Tyler opened a small animal rescue shelter on the outskirts of town. He called it Rosie's Haven. It wasn't big, not at first, but it became a place where animals abandoned, burned, broken, or scared could find healing. And people could too. Rosie never left his side. She greeted every new arrival with a gentle sniff and stayed by every cage of a frightened pup until they felt safe enough to wag their tail. Visitors often asked about the name, and Tyler would simply point to the golden brown dog with the faint red collar. She's the reason this place exists. The story of the fire, the leap into the flames, the miracle puppy, the accident, and reunion spread online. People from around the world sent support. Some even showed up, hoping to meet the dog who waded through fire, and the man who didn't think twice. Tyler never claimed to be a hero. In fact, he often said Rosie saved him more than he saved her. And maybe that's the truth. Because sometimes, in trying to rescue someone else, we discover what was missing in ourselves all along. Moral of the story asterisk. Asterisk bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about loving something enough to risk everything. And sometimes, the smallest life can teach us the biggest lessons about healing, hope, and unconditional love. Asterisk. The end.